Joe Goldberg is a character that we're all fascinated with, and some of us love, but we probably shouldn't. Over the course of the 4 seasons, we've seen his character develop and progress in a way that has made him a danger to society. He stalks, obsesses, and kills in order to keep himself happy and aim to get the love that he feels as though he deserves. This means that over the course of the entirety of the show, he's killed a lot of people. So with that, I thought I'd break down and explain all of the people that Joe has harmed throughout the 4 seasons that we've been given. So let's get into it. Here is Joe Goldberg's entire kill count in You. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. If you stick around until the end, I also break down Love's kills as a bonus too. Let's start right back when Joe was a child. We know that Joe Goldberg killed his father when he was protecting his mother. This was revealed to us in Season 2 and happened when he was only a young boy, marking his first kill. The second person that Joe killed was another one that occurred prior to us properly being introduced to Joe, and this was an individual that Candice was cheating on Joe with. This was Elijah. The third person that we came to know that Joe killed was Beck's boyfriend at the time, Benji. This was Joe's first act of killing somebody in the name of love when he wasn't with them at the time. The fourth person that Joe killed in his life was Beck's best friend Peach. Due to Peach being suspicious of Joe and coming to find out information on him that could prove to be damaging, we saw that he went on to kill her. The fifth person that Joe killed was done out of empathy. This individual was called Ron. He was in a relationship with Joe's neighbor and was being abusive towards her and her son Paco, somebody who Joe saw himself within and related to the trouble that Paco found himself in with not knowing what to do. So Joe took matters into his own hands, which meant that Paco saw the whole thing. Then the sixth and final person that we saw Joe kill in Season 1 was Beck, concluding the killings in the first season. Beck didn't want to be with Joe once she found out about all that he had done, and once she stumbled across his souvenir box that he kept hidden away that showed that he was responsible for multiple murders, showing us the first time that Joe had killed the person that he loved due to them not wanting to be with him, despite the fact that at the time he thought he'd previously killed Candice. This then brings us onto the killings in Season 2 of the show. The first person that we saw Joe kill was the person in which the real Will Blenheim owed money to. The second person that we saw Joe kill was Henderson. This again was done out of protection to Ellie, similarly to how we saw him act in protection of Paco in the first season. He knew that Henderson was an individual that used his fame in order to exploit people and get what he wanted. This was a killing that Joe felt as though he did because he was doing the world a favor. These were the only killings that Joe carried out in Season 2. Yes, we saw the death of Delilah and Candice, two extremely important characters, but that was all love in her deranged psychotic state. This then brings us onto Season 3 of the show. Within Season 3, we saw that Joe carried out his first killing in the name of love again. He killed Marienne's ex-boyfriend. This was an individual whom he kind of viewed like Ron, somebody who was toxic and was prepared to destroy somebody else's life. So Joe took matters into his own hands, and to protect the new person that he loved, he killed him. Then the final killing that we saw Joe do in Season 3 of the show was none other than the legend of the show, which was Love Quinn. In a twist of fate, he tricked her into believing that the poison had worked on him, when in actual fact he took an antidote before, which then rendered the poison ineffective, and he in turn poisoned Love instead, marking an end to the closest person that had ever been able to match Joe in terms of a psychotic and obsessive nature. Then we've got the killings that he committed in Season 4 of the show, which is actually the largest that he's ever committed in an entire season. After it was revealed to us that he was in fact the Eat the Rich killer, he started off by killing Malcolm, and he did this because Malcolm spoke some horrible words about Marienne, so Joe disagreed with him due to still being in love with her and ultimately killed him. He then went on to kill Simon. He killed Simon because he didn't agree with the fact that Simon was exploiting less fortunate artists in taking their work and passing it off as his own. With Joe being in a less fortunate position once upon a time, he's somebody who always roots for the underdog. After the killing of Simon, he went on to kill Vic. Vic was Phoebe's long-serving bodyguard who was suspicious of Joe from the moment that he arrived. Vic caught Joe snooping and stalking on multiple occasions, but it was on the time where he followed Kate that Vic met his demise at the hands of Joe. After this one, he killed Gemma. He did this because Gemma was getting suspicious and speaking too much about how people had started dying once Joe had arrived within the friendship group, so he killed her to keep her silent. He then went on to kill the real-life Rhys Montrose. He killed Rhys out of confusion and whilst he was in his delirious state. He believed that Rhys Montrose had Marienne locked up in a cage somewhere and was blackmailing him, when in actual fact it wasn't the case at all. The next person that Joe killed was Kate's father, Tom Lockwood. Following him revealing that he was the reason behind every success in Kate's life, Joe made it his duty to rid Kate of her controlling father. And then the final killing in season 4 of the show was one that you couldn't help but feel bad for the individual, and it seemed like one of the most unfortunate ones out of them all. And that was Edward. Edward was Joe's student who was helping Nadia snoop around Joe's apartment looking to find damaging evidence on Joe. He was helping her because he wanted to be in a relationship with Nadia, and this was his way of showing her that he cared. Joe killed Edward in order to frame Nadia and get her arrested, so that she'd be able to keep her mouth shut about what she found. So yeah, Joe has killed a lot of people over the space of 4 seasons. Across all of them, he's killed 17 people. So if this was real, he'd be plastered all over the news once he would get caught, which I think will come one day. While we're here, we may as well talk about the people that Love Quinn killed throughout her time. Love started off by killing the nanny that used to work in her house when she was younger, called Sophia. The second person that she killed was her first husband named James. He wanted to leave her, and in an accident she gave him too much of the dosage of the poison that she planned on giving to Joe, and she ended up rendering him no more. The third person that Love killed was Delilah. Love suspected that something was going on between Joe and her, and she killed her once she located her at the box that Joe was keeping hidden, which did cause some confusion for a short while. The fourth person that she killed was Candace. Love killed Candace because she was threatening to go to the police about all of the things that Joe had done, and also because she stumbled across the body of Delilah. However, Love wasn't prepared to let that happen, so she took matters into her own hands. The fifth person that Love killed was the next door neighbor to the house that she bought with Joe in the suburbs. This person was called Natalie. She did this because she suspected that something was going on between Joe and her, which it was. The sixth and final person that Love killed was her other neighbor in the suburbs called Gil. She hit him because she believed that it was his fault that Henry got sick and was taken to the hospital in a critical condition. This meant that she put him in the cage in a state where he was still alive, but he ultimately took himself. So whilst death wasn't done at the hands of her, if it wasn't for her putting him in the cage, he would have most likely still been alive. There were, however, a couple of people that Love harmed but managed to escape. This was their neighbor's son called Theo, who we saw was okay but sustained some serious injuries. Sherry and Kerry survived after they escaped the cage, and also Joe, who managed to twist things around and escape death's grasp. There was also a small run-in where Love was potentially going to kill Marienne, but she decided not to. Together, the couple are extreme serial killers, and the fact that Joe still hasn't been caught is a big surprise. However, I feel surely he has to meet his demise sooner or later. So, there you have it, Joe Goldberg's entire kill count in You. If you want to see more videos such as endings explained, theories and predictions, and character breakdowns, then click on the I button, or alternatively you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. If you'd like to give me a show or movie that you'd like me to review, then head over to my Twitter, @brainpilot_, and tweet me what show or movie you'd like me to review next. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. What do you think of Joe Goldberg? Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.